All right, we're back with part 2 of chapter 6. So the last reading, we were talking about some of the reasons that people are even involved with imperialism, getting a bunch of stuff. Uh, the fact that it makes you look good, it makes you look like you're prestigious, keeping up with the Joneses. But then there was also that idea about racism and social Darwinism. Social Darwinism says if we get your stuff and you die, oh well. But racism says my race is better than yours. And these concepts are motivations for people to go literally and take other people's stuff. So now we're going to talk about the Ottoman Empire. So I'm going to get into this and read a portion. I'm going to provide this document for you, but it's really long. So I'm going to spend a couple of videos trying to make sure I read and break down as much of it as I possibly can. So here, and this is coming from Britannica. This is where this particular piece of passage is coming from. The Ottoman Empire, or the Turkish Empire, existed for 634 years between 1299 and 1923, and is considered one of the largest ancient empires to ever exist. One of them. The founding father of the Ottoman Empire was Usman I. At the height of its power, the empire covered the regions of today Anatolia, Middle East, and parts of southeastern Europe and North Africa. The study of the Ottoman Empire raises important themes on the factors that contributed to its successful expansion. Questions also arise as to why a big and expansive empire would not survive. The history exists up to this day. The failures of the empire also emerge from this study. By virtue of the fact that the Ottoman Empire is one of the historically known empires among the mightiest and longest lasting dynasties in known history, attracted me to this research. This was a paper written by a college student, and these are the sources that I'm going to be giving you. Britannica is the first source. So as you hear me read and discuss this, this is literary writing. It's literally it's the historical, okay, literary writing. Something that you can learn from and continue to use. So look at the document really well. Look at how this college student breaks down their segments and creates this very long paper that colleges ask for all the time. Look how they cite their sources and look at how they connect the ideas. Okay, so that's why I provided this particular document for you to kind of look at, and analyze, and understand how that looks. Also, the study of the legacy of the empire that today's government can learn from, both from its successes and failures. Literature about the Ottoman Empire suggests that its culture influenced modern cultures of Europe. So, this makes a relevant topic in learning how human activities have evolved over the years. Some of the questions that this particular document wants to answer: what made the Ottoman Empire strong and successful for a long time? What factors led to the fall of the Ottoman Empire? And how did the culture of Ottoman Empire in Europe influence each other? So there's another source, Cogent Economics and Finance, Evansville, A.Y., and Meeks. That's another source that's cited here. And then there's a picture of the founder, Usman I. In the article, An Institutional Approach to the Decline of the Ottoman Empire, written in 2017, Evansville and Meeks examined the institutional factors that led to the decline of the empire in 1918. They identify three major things: succession structure, that's the first thing; power structure and the identity of the Ottoman elites; and the third thing is land ownership, military public finance triangle. So there are three major things that are going to contribute to the decline of the empire. Those are three things that they say contribute to the decline of the empire. Concerning succession structure, they claim that fundamental cultural transformations of the Turks resulted to power struggles for who would be the next ruler. Regarding power structure, the fall is attributed to the denial elite status to the Muslim Turks. This status was instead given to the Umayyad and the Janissaries, two groups within the empire. Remember that, so that's a civil situation. When there are two groups in the same country or area and they're arguing about something, yeah, that's a civil war or a civil revolution, kind of situation. These two groups, and they lacked an imperial decision-making power, both of these groups. Lastly, the change of land ownership, military public finance triangle led to the loss of revenue that made it impossible for the empire to keep up with the latest technologies. Remember all these new inventions? Okay, y'all up here arguing about who's going to be the next ruler, but you're not making money like the rest of the world who's out here industrializing and keeping it moving. Very important information. So let's go to another piece that's important. There's an article here, The Ottoman Empire, Its Rise, Decline, and Collapse, Journal Salman. This was 2013 when that was published. The article, The Ottoman Empire, Its Rise, Decline, and Collapse, by Fani, explains the rise, decline, and fall of the Ottoman Empire. It recognizes the Ottoman Empire as an empire that proved that the Islamic people could make strong imperials even after their devastation by the Mongol invasions. The Ottoman Empire was created in 1453 by a warrior of Muslim Turks, and expanded over the 15th and 16th century. It was so expansive that it consisted of 75 different ethnic groups of Muslims, Jews, and Christian faiths. So 3 major religions and 75 different ethnic groups were over there in the Ottoman Empire, and it got started by a warrior. Success is attributed to strong military power. Yep, you can fight somebody and win. That's good. But how long are you going to stay in power? That's the question. Examples of successful military campaigns that illustrated the strength of the Ottoman Empire were the Constantinople, the conquest of the Arabs between 1516 and 1517, and the European campaigns between 1520 and 1566. See, those European campaigns, those were the Crusades. That's a whole nother long story, but you should have gotten that in your ancient history class, possibly. But yeah, we're going to keep going. The Ottoman Empire's fall is attributed to the death of Sultan Suleiman, who led the European campaign and was the most wise and powerful of all Ottoman Empire's sultans. After his death, the empire was faced by a web of problems that led to its decline, which ranged from economic, social, moral, and cultural problems. The most affected aspect was the military, and which was the major strength of the empire. But keep in mind, their military was based up of slaves. If you're going to enslave somebody and make you work for me and make you fight for me, what's to keep me from changing my mind and running away? I'm not going to work for you or fight for you. So that's a bad idea, but people do it. People have done it, and at one point it was working. Okay, one more page, and then I'm going to let you go on this one. In this particular article, it explains the rise and the expansion of the Ottoman Empire from the perspective of the European observers and how the Ottomans and Europeans shaped each other's histories. The encounter between the Ottomans and Europe were advanced in the 1400s by Catholic bishops who crusaded against the Muslim Turks. When the Ottomans occupied Ontario in Italy in 1480, many clergies crossed Europe to preach and issue indulgences. That's a word I want you to Google. What is an indulgence? The Catholic Church used to give indulgences, which means we'll forgive you for your sins if you give us some money. We'll forgive whatever. The priests felt that they could forgive your sins if you gave them some money. Google that word, indulgences. That is what Martin Luther, who started the Protestant Reformation in Germany, had a problem with in his 95 Theses. They had a plan to recruit soldiers to fight against the Turks. Although their campaign was not as successful, they did manage to recruit some European religious and lay figures. The Ottomans responded by taking into captivity Christians across the Eastern and Mediterranean Europe and having them work as slaves. During the Renaissance, European writers, intellectuals, and painters depicted the Ottomans as war people, people of violence, and people with conquest themes with conquest. Other artists concentrated on documenting the history of the emperor's leaders. Building on those historical depictions, writers in Europe have also incorporated Ottoman characters in plays, operas, and novels. So with that, we're going to stop for part 2 of chapter 6. Stay tuned. We'll be back for another one.